For example, this rock, paper, scissors example, right? So one thing, I'm not sure if we discussed it or not, but it just came up in the question right now. So let's see this part. So when you start a program, if it works or if it doesn't matter. But if it starts, if it shows some GUI, you can see kind of tree of objects inserted into each other. So let's see, not objects, tree of composable functions. Okay. So for example, this screen. Let's assume that you want to see something is not functioning, but you don't really know why. Piece on the screen does not show up. So there is a button here called Toggle Layout Inspector. When you click on it, it will open inspector window, this one. And this way you can click on elements and it will actually show area taken by this element. For example, root screen, it is entire piece. Okay. So if something, size of something looks wrong, it means issue is with size, obviously, right? Or if it appears not in the place where it should be, and maybe it is covering something. So this is how to see. For example, navigation host, it is, again, entire piece, it is what is replaced when we do navigation, this one. Our play screen, again, this is entire piece. Because play screen now is replacing the content of navigation host. And now we have a part of it. So inside of play screen contain scaffold. Scaffold, here it is. This is game top bar. Now we see already details starting up, showing up, right? Column, this is the column. Okay. And then in the column, this is the text here, right? Then I created composable user choice input. This is entire piece, user choice input. Right? In the user, below that, there is a button which is separate. So this way you can see actually elements that support where they show up and check if they're in the right place. And if something doesn't show up or show up in wrong place for no obvious reason, you can see actual borders of columns, rows, to figure out what should be resized or what attribute properties you need to change. Okay. So this is user choice input. Now it contains column, right? Now there is a column. And this column contains select options 3 times. So I created composable select option. Okay. So when you try to create things, start with the smallest small piece that you can see and check that it is working. Then another piece, check that it's working. Next, check that they work together. Because if you try to copy paste gazillion of items, and it doesn't show up right, you don't really, it's hard to figure out why. Okay. So how did I do it? I was just checking small pieces separately and commenting them out and see how they appear, then wrap it in another piece. So there is no way just to type long code and hope that it will work. It won't. So when program is crashing, you probably, when you took your C# course, you realized that no program is just dying silently. When they die, they tell you something. Right? And the goal is to find location where it tells you something. So when program is crashing immediately, or when you click something and it's crashing, it will always print something. And printout lives in cat window. You see log cat. So this is outputs of the system when you run your program. So this is emulator. You can limit how much it will show. When it's crashing, it will be some red message. This is not crash, but it will be kind of staircase red message. That will give you some, you read it carefully, sometimes clue is somewhere here, so you need to scroll. And crash will be like long, but eventually when you read it carefully, it will be some clue why it's crashing. So again, if there is a crash or some misbehavior, most likely reading cat, look cat will tell you sure. There is also a way to stop your code and see variable values. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. It really depends on the code. So how to do it? It is running debugger. So when you click on say these lines, when you click on it, red bubbles appear. This is breakpoint. So for example, if program reaches this point, it will stop. It is just random place. It's not a good idea to stop. Okay, so let's remove this part and stop in some place where it makes sense. For example, let's do here. In this program, it's not really a huge asset to stop it. Okay, for example, here it is. This would stop program when this function is called. So let's stop it. And in order to make it stop, I think we need to click this one, debug instead of this, instead of run. So let's see. On user choice change, okay. Definitely it should be called when I click on one of the three, right? Boom, it was called, right? It was called and it stopped, and you see that there is a check mark here. And program is not running. Now you can see some variables. You see, it was paper. So this function was called with parameter paper. Okay. So new choice, also paper. Okay. So if there is some long logic, you can say do stepping. So these buttons. In this case, it's not really useful. Okay, so step in take you inside of the function call. In this case, it doesn't make sense because it will take you into update function, which is library function. Okay. A step over will take you to next line. So in this case, it will take you here, I believe. Let's try. The same as step out will take you out of loop or out of function call. Okay, so let's see. Okay, now where we are. I call it step over, so it took me outside of this function call. Now I'm here, and it is displaying variables, right? So this variable paper, this is paper, and not much. So this is not really a great a great point for debugging. But if we do like roll, say, example with rolling, we can do more logic there because there is a loop in dice roller, right? So we can try that one for it. Another choice, so this way you can stop your program and see like null or not null or a variable value like this, you see? This is debugger. And again, usefulness of it, sometimes it is useful, sometimes it's really questionable if it's useful. Especially if you have a lot of GUI functions calling each other, calling system functions, you definitely don't want to step into some system function call because there is no point of diving into library call. We don't debug libraries. So a debugger can be useful. It's not guaranteed. Mostly it is useful if you have some complicated logic made yourself. Okay? This way you can step between lines by these buttons, like step over, or just step out or step into it is into function call. It's probably easier to do it, to do the demo on dice roll example. So I will show this in dice roll example. So now for the GUI, good asset is inspector, layout inspector, this one. No, let's call it, it's not layout. How is it called? Layout inspector, yeah, it's right, it's layout inspector. You close it and it's gone. Another good choice maybe is to stop program at some point and see variable values. If you click run, it will continue till it reach another stop point. You can have more than one, or the same stop point. It really depends on your logic. And after this, you can see variables again. So for example, I run it, now it is continuing. So this function will be called next time when I click this, right? Okay, so user choice Caesar, so this button works. I click it on it, right? Okay. But it's not selected yet, because it will become selected when state is updated, but state is not updated. This line is updating state, right? So let's run. Now state is updated, so it is selected. Okay. Clicking on this bubble just removes the breakpoint. Okay, so this happens when you click, insert some breakpoints and click on bug, so bugs for debugging. Another good resource is to either print variables or print messages. For example, if something is wrong with the logic and you don't know what is going on. For example, if it is crashing but you don't know where, how many steps it did, how far it reached. So this way you can insert messages in your code. How to do it? This window, messages will appear in cat window, this log cat window. How to deal with it? And again, it really depends on place where you want to insert. So messages are inserted with log dot, and there are options. In for D, it is for debug. This is for arrow. This is for info. You can, depending on which option you choose, you can limit amount of messages. For example, you can choose only display debug messages, but when you choose only debug, it will also display error messages. Okay? Or if you limit only for error, it won't display debug messages. Typically, if you do debugging, just do Z and see what it does. Okay. So how to do it? For example, you use log Z. First, you give a tag. And tag is typically name of the file, or it is something that you will use to filter messages. For example, you have a lot of stuff here, but you want to find specific variable value that you printed. Okay? So this is used in filtering, and this is actual things that you want to display in message, like on play is called. Okay? So it doesn't have, I don't think it has to run debug. It is, I need to stop it. I think it is, you can run either debug or this one in order to see messages. So let's see. Okay. Run. Okay. This can be used to filter it. For example, I type. Okay, let's see. Okay, when I click play, if I look carefully, I will find it actually. On play is called this one, you see? You can print variable values and see it on the screen, or also you can insert messages, so you can trace your logic here. You can use this tag to do filtering, so you will display only your messages or messages from specific place. So you copy this piece, you paste it here. Am I right? Yeah. And you see now it shows only this line. So it filtered out stuff. Where this stuff is coming, I have no idea. It's probably messages, how you reach this point, I don't know. I didn't see this before, it's first time. Okay. So you can display variable values in the message if you just join it into the string. Okay. And again, you can log errors. If error happens, for example, something should not be null, so you use log E in some message, this should not be null, and it will appear here. This way you can trace issues, right? It will also help you debug. So this is log cat, this is log cat. These messages appear like normally. When it's crashing, it will be crash messages here. But you can also use log D, log E to display stuff. If you use log E, it will be in red because it's error. It will be assumed as error. Log D, it is just what you see. Yeah. And this is D, actually. This. All right? You can also limit this. For you, when you use it E, log D, log I, you can limit the scope, how much you can see. But again, this is probably important for long programs with a lot of messages. But if it's like assignment one, just stick to one of them and use it. Perhaps for debugging, yes, this makes sense. Right. Questions? So let's run debugger in some example where we have multiple lines, so we can actually see. Okay. Also, in your program, you also create some random values, right? You have some logic in business logic, so it probably makes sense to check that, right? So let's run program. By the way, you can also check business logic by running tests. You can create tests and check it that way. So for example, let me open another piece, dice roller. So projects, dice roller. No, it's dice. It's called dice game. Okay, and this new window. Okay, so this is what I created tests. And again, test does not have to be fancy. You can check some business logic for crashing or not crashing, or just print variable values with println. Just if you want to test function, call this function, display values that you call use it to call it, display values, result of it. So this way you can check business logic without actually running GUI. So tests are useful not just for testing in terms of reproducible, like, automatic testing. You can check just logic of pure Kotlin code in tests and see if it makes sense. Okay. So I promised with this example to show debugging. For example, roller service. So get raw data. Okay, let's check logic of this program, this part, get raw data. Okay, so I stop this part. I stop it here. So let's call debugger. Okay, so this will be called when I click this, right? Get raw data eventually will reach when I click row 3 dice. Okay, click at this. What do I see? Number of dice 3, so obviously it received number 3. Also values are displayed at the bottom. Okay. So I'm here, right? So click step out, it is out of function call. Step over, so I'm here, right? So what do I see? Number of dice, 3, nothing special yet, right? Step into will take me into this lambda function call probably. So let's try. Step into, no, I clicked at wrong place. So I'm back here. So let's do step into here. So what do we have here? Size 3 now. Return raw data, and this is raw data that is generated. Right? So list of 0, 1, 2. No. Size 3. Value 1, value 2, and another value 2. Right? No, this is not useful actually, running line by line. So again, a debugger, sometimes it is helping, sometimes it's not. But it definitely will help you if you need some point in your program to check variable values, and stepping is actually limited, especially if you use GUI and several library calls in it, so it's not always great. Another approach would be to insert another step here. So this way you can see actually, no, you cannot actually see. It will call add, next int, but it will not. No, this is a not good point. So sometimes it is useful if you have several stop points or break points, and you just click run in between. So if stepping looks tedious or just confusing, another option is just to have several breakpoints, and run will take you to next breakpoint, and this way you will see what happens to variables there. It's another choice. So a combination of stopping and seeing variables and displaying messages using logd, it is probably the best. And for the GUI, it is definitely, in order to see arrangement of this stuff, is to click Layout Inspector, this button, this Layout Inspector. Questions? And again, practice helps to learn how to do it. And in order to get practice, you need to start earlier, okay, for assignment. If it is if you start last evening, no chance, absolutely. So, since now you have about 2 weeks before it's due, right? So today is Tuesday, it's due on Saturday next week, so plenty of time, but don't take this message plenty of time, like you can start like next week. No, start tonight. Okay. Questions? So that was a discussion of just general approach how to catch issues. Log messages like logd, stopping program at breakpoints to see values, and inspector. And I don't think there is anything else is useful. I don't think there's probably this is it. The rest is just looking up how other programs work. We will look into the examples, two actually examples coming from Google. Okay. If no questions, let's open another example. Here it is. So I will close rock, paper, scissors. Please don't forget that this is probably the closest to assignment, although it's not copy-pastable, so don't do it last moment.